Hi guys, welcome to my channel, and in this episode I will show you, I will talk a little bit about Beeswax. I made 4 different paste waxes. All are based on a beeswax with some extra ingredients. One of them is soft, 3 of them are hard pastes. The soft one is mainly for wood to impregnate. The hard ones, one is mostly dedicated for tools to protect against rust and also to reduce friction between planer or any other tool and material that you are working with. So the very soft is for wood, the very hard is for tools. Before we start working with this Beeswax, a few words about the ingredients. One of this, you see, yeah, this one. This one is very natural. It has only beeswax and boiled linseed oil. The others, they're also quite safe, but they contain turpentine. It can be replaced by the white spirit in some cases, but they are not as natural as this one. If you're interested in impregnating wood with the linseed oil, remember that anytime you use cotton cloths, they can burn, because linseed oil has this purpose, this bad habit for self-ignition. So be careful. With the Beeswax, it shouldn't be any problem. I prepared 3 scraps of wood. Unfortunately, I don't have hardwood, so we will use just softwood. This is a pine, raw pine, no stained, nothing, just sanded with paper 150. So that will be our first one. Here, let me see. Yeah, it's a very dry wood. This is also a pine, but I stained this using those 2 stains. They are water-based, both of them. This one is a alder, and this is a walnut. So we will see how those paste waxes changes a color. And here the same, but this is a spruce, also stained double side. It was sanded, then stained, then sanded again, 150 paper, stained and sanded again. So there are 2 coats of stain. So now a few words about the paste waxes, where there are differences and what we can expect. So let's start from the softest one. In my garage it has a number 565. It contains turpentine, beeswax and linseed oil. Not boiled one, but the regular one. Which means that it will require a lot of time to polymerize. It can be dried to touch in 10-15 hours, but the full dry it will be after a few days even. And this is very soft, because turpentine and linseed oil are very soft. Another one is 076. It has only beeswax and boiled linseed oil. So boiling linseed oil speeds up the polymerization of linseed oil, because the raw linseed oil needs an oxygen and light to polymerize. So boiling it, we are speeding up the process, and this is the very hard beeswax. Another one with the 6 and 6 has carnauba wax. I may butcher the name, so I will put it somewhere on the screen. Turpentine, beeswax, boiled linseed oil. Turpentine in this case is required because of this carnauba wax. It is very hard wax, but it needs some solvent, which in this case is turpentine. And the last one is 866, which means it has exactly the same ingredients as the previous one, but it has twice as much carnauba wax than the first one, so it should be harder. Not when we apply this, because there's a turpentine, so it will not be that hard as this natural one with the beeswax and boiled linseed oil. So it should be pretty oily in touch, but when it dries, it should be very, very solid. So I will put numbers here. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need a 5. Yeah, so let's say like this one. So I will keep the very first slot as a row. So here we will use 5, 6, 5, the soft one. Here 0, 7, 6, 6, 6 and 6, and the last one is 8, 6 and 6. I will put labels on all pieces and I will start applying it. All slots are labeled, so now I can start applying paste waxes. I will use cotton cloth. I've seen that some guys are using steel wool, and the purpose of using the steel wool is that you make tiny scratches on the surface that can be filled in by wax. So in theory, this steel wool may work better, but I use always cotton cloth, so that's how it is. This is the soft one, so we just take, as you can see, it is very, very soft. Just rub in. And a little bit more. Okay, so it goes like this. Here is the hardest one. And the hard paste waxes are packed in a paper, just to make it easier to take it off from the container. Yeah, smells quite good. Yeah, and you can immediately see that applying that wax to wood is not an easy task. But it's possible. I do not recommend do this on a big surface because it can be a very tough day. Okay. You can immediately feel the friction. Okay. And here we have this one is with this carnauba wax, but it contains also a turpentine. You can feel it, and it's oily and it goes smoothly on the surface. Okay. Put it back. And almost the same ingredients. It also contains turpentine, so it should be also as easy to apply as this one, but it should be harder when it polymerizes. Okay, so that was our raw pine. Now let's do this with some colors. Let's start. This one. And the walnut side is done. Now I'm going to do the same for the other side, the light one, and then I will keep it. I will leave it for like 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. We'll see, just to allow this to polymerize, to work with wood a little bit, and then I will start it wiping out, and I will show you the results. 30 minutes have passed, so it's time to remove what's left on the surface. Okay, so that was our raw wood. Pine in general is very, let's say, boring wood. That's why here on the raw wood there are some differences before and after using this beeswax, but this is nothing spectacular. So let's see how it looked like on a stained version. It will take a while, so I will finish this off camera. It makes no sense to record how I'm working with the cotton cloth. So everything polished. Of course, it could be done even better. The surface is still a little bit sticky, but that's what I said at the beginning, that this beeswax requires dozens of hours, sometimes even days, to be fully dry. Now it is kind of dry, but you can feel that something is on that surface. So here is our raw wood. Here's without any beeswax. Here you can see this is a little bit more yellowish, so it's transparent, but it is not without any color. It adds a little bit of yellow, and it's shining a little bit. It's like a semi-matte, I would say. Here we have also a pine, and in this stain it looks way more interesting, I think, at least from my point of view. And with this beeswax, the linseed oil is bringing up the color, so it is even more intense here. And the same, it is a little bit sticky. Here we have this yellow one, alder, yeah, so here is very flat color, and here we have this linseed oil, this bringing up, so it looks way better. And here we have a spruce. Same situation. Here is our raw example, and here our waxed elements, pieces, and the same on the walnut color. Here maybe I will take a picture later, because I'm not sure if my camera can catch this, but this is way more shining. It's not gloss. It's still semi-matte, and looks way better. Beeswaxes are pretty easy to make. Of course, you have to be careful, because preparing them requires to add some heat, and some of the ingredients can start burning and so on. But overall, it's pretty simple. If you are interested in how I make my beeswaxes, please continue watching. If don't, thank you for watching, and see you next time. Before we start preparing our mixtures, a few words about equipment and ingredients that we will need. So first thing is an oven. It's good to have an electric one, nothing that has any kind of flame, because that will be dangerous, especially using turpentine. It's a mineral spirit, I guess, optional name. So small, cheap oven, electric, no flames. Here I have a one pot with water, and there's a second one. Must be with ovals, otherwise will not work. It is called double boiler. I call it also a water bath. Because there is also a steam bath, where the smaller pot is heated by steam, not the water. For those of you that don't know, the purpose of this double boiler is that water never reach temperature higher than the 100 degrees Celsius. But the oven, the temperature of the heating part is way higher. So even the water has just 100 degrees, not just, but has 100 degrees, the very bottom part of the pot may be way higher. So our mixture can be burnt because of it. But now we have just 100 degrees water, so the bottom of the smaller part will never get the temperature higher than the 100 degrees. And also, because of the amount of water, the temperature inside of this pot is way more stable than the temperature of this heating part, because it is quite difficult to cool down or heat up water immediately. So that's another thing. We also need a scale. I have a blanket on my table, so that's why I have a piece of OSB, because scale doesn't work on soft materials. Few containers to measure ingredients. Here is a funnel. It's an obvious thing. I'm going to prepare two hard waxes and one soft one, but all of them will be stored in such cans, small one because they are more handy. But the hard ones I would like to be able to remove and take off from this pan. That's why I will use this silicone to form the shape and then put it here to cans. So that is important. Also some thermometer. It can be electronic, this typical, whatever you have, but with the high temperatures like 70, 80 degrees Celsius at least. So about the ingredients. And something to mix the mixture. This is raw rinsed oil, and here I have boiled. The boiled one doesn't penetrate wood as deep as the raw one, but it's dry out way quicker. So that's the main difference, I guess. Here I have it's called carnauba wax. It's, as I know, the hardest plant-based, plant origin wax. It melts in a temperature more or less 80-85 degrees, so pretty high. For better melting and mixing with other ingredients, we need to use this turpentine, mineral spirit, with being very careful, because this is very flammable mixture and can be also toxic when eaten. Here I have this in a paper bag after my coffee, so don't be confused, but that's wax. Beeswax from my free range bees, fully organic, but you can take it from a local beekeeper. Probably you can buy already chopped. That's depends where you live. If you would get that's the safety information. Let me show you how I store my wax. I store my beeswax in bars like this one. But if you are not very familiar how to use it and how to deal with it, do not try to use such big of piece of beeswax doing these waxes. The reason is very simple. It melts, but it is not like a butter. It doesn't melt immediately. So if you would have such a big piece in your pot, and it will start melting at the bottom. But then the heat will rise at the bottom. It will build a temperature and pressure. And if you are not melting this good enough, that pressure will be higher and higher. There will be more wax around in the water because it doesn't mix with the water, so it will be floating, and with other ingredients if you add. And that bulb that was building up here will reach the point to have enough power to lift it, and then you have this volcano effects. And no one wants to be close to volcano when it erupts, and wax cools down pretty quickly, but cool downs do not be a liquid but still to be hot. So if any drop will be on your skin, it will be hot for a very long time, and you cannot just shake your hand to drop it. So do not use that big pieces of beeswax. Use the smaller ones, way more convenient, easier to melt, not that dangerous. We will start with the hardest wax that we can make. So with the carnauba wax, of course, mineral spirit, beeswax, and boiled linseed oil. One more thing, you can buy it. You can buy boiled linseed oil already, or you can buy a raw one and boil it by yourself. Do this outside, not in your house. It's also flammable, so it's better to do this outside with a good ventilation and far away from your goods. I will use mass for measurements, not the volumes, just a mass, just to make it easier. It will be 1/3 of each. 1/3 of this, 1/3 of this, and 1/3 of this. It will be 20 grams, 20 grams of this wax, 100 grams of 10 grams, 50 grams, 60 grams, and 60 grams. Because of temperature, melting temperature of this wax is the highest, so we will start with this one. Then I will add this boiled linseed oil and the wax at the very end. My mixture reached around 75 degrees Celsius, and this carnauba wax is melting. So here I have 60 grams of boiled linseed oil, and here are 60 grams of my organic beeswax. So now I'm going to add it, and as a final result, you should see pretty transparent mixture. You should be able even to see a bottom of your pot. So I will still keep my double boiler heating, and I will show you a result in a few minutes. My very first mixture is almost ready. Beeswax is melted, carnauba also is melted, and the whole portion is losing a color. Before it had a very deep orange, maybe it's not even orange, but very deep yellow color. But now it becomes more and more transparent, so it's time to pour this to my silicone forms. But before I do this, I would like to keep it warm a few more seconds. And I heard, I'm not sure if this is true, but I heard that this carnauba wax is used as a glaze in Tic Tac drops, if you know the small 2 calories mint drops from Ferrero, I guess. So I heard that they use it for this. And that mixture is the most difficult because it requires the highest temperature. Also, because of this carnauba wax, so it requires high temperature, and it has few pretty flammable ingredients. So I'm happy that everything went as expected. Now it's time to pour. Here I would like to fill up just for the half of it, not more. Otherwise my cans will be too small. Okay, and 5 slots done. Some people put this to fridge to cool down. I just keep it in my garage for a night and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong to keep it just in a room temperature. Maybe it will cool down a bit longer, but you know, the night is pretty long. For the second wax, I would need the proportion will be 2/3 to 1/3, which means in my case 60 grams of linseed oil and 120 grams of beeswax. And the same procedure as before: melt, mix, pour, cool down, and actually that's it. And now it's time to prepare the softest version of this beeswax. So ingredients that we need: raw linseed oil, mineral spirits, and as usual beeswax. And the proportions are 1/3 of each. 60 grams, 60 grams, and 60 grams. So that's the easiest to prepare because a small amount of wax reduces time to melt. And as you could see, the hardness of the wax comes from amount of beeswax actually. In the very first, we had extra hardener in other wax type. I will start from left to right, mix everything, melt, and pour directly to these cans because it will be used by cotton pads and such stuff. So this is raw linseed oil, which means that it will require way more time to be hand dry, applied on wood, but it also should penetrate wood deeper than the boiled version. All those ingredients are relatively safe. The mineral spirits is still in use in medicine, in cosmetics. You cannot eat it, but you can apply it on your skin. And the last mixture is done. It was very quick job. The first one took the most of the time because this carnauba wax. This one was pretty simple, pretty fast. So let's pour this. All waxes, when they are melted, they are very transparent. So if you are not sure if everything was melted correctly, and you should still heat it up and mix, take a look on it. And if you can see a bottom, if you cannot see any big parts of beeswax, that's obvious. But if you can see a bottom of your pot, it means that it is more likely correctly melted and mixed. And as expected, the mixtures, the recipes with the biggest amount of beeswax, are the smallest in volume. So that's the second hardest beeswax I made. That was 1/3 of oil and the 2/3 of beeswax, and there are just 4 slots filled in. In others, I have way more oils. There are mineral spirit and linseed oil, boiled and raw. But because of the amount of beeswax was smaller, it was just a 1/3. It requires a little bit more containers. So that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching and see you next time.